it for your agenda.
Mr. Mayor, you're now live on YouTube.
Thank you. Just make sure you mute it.
You did.
Yes, because
I'm
of
not gonna-
feedback.
I'm just gonna have it on the regular.
If we start getting feedback, Jeff will tell you.
No, I'm not even gonna go to the Zoom part of it. I'm just gonna use it for my agenda.
Sounds good.
And my notes.
Same thing. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm gonna need that piece of paper back, by the way.
As soon as I get to it, I'll get it, shoot right back to you.
We're on a strict budget for note paper. That piece and this piece here. Gotta get you some water when we go.
Thank you, sir.
Jennifer, did you get a water?
Have lemonade, but thank you.
Anybody else need one? Tom? Okay, we got 1 minute. Everybody all right? Jeff, are we all right?
Yes, sir. Good to go.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, it's 6 o'clock. We will call our meeting to order. Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the April 13th, 2021 Graham City Council meeting. The City of Graham is convening by Zoom video phone conference. To join the meeting, you may dial 253-215-8782 and enter the meeting ID 832-2539-0519. Zoom information is also posted on the City of Graham's website, identifying how the public may join. The meeting will be live streamed on the City of Graham's YouTube page at www.youtube.com. Type in City of Graham, North Carolina. This meeting is being recorded. If anyone is having technical difficulty or connection difficulties, please contact Preston Jenkins at 336-347-8674 for support. To address the council during the public comments portion of the meeting, please use the raise the hand feature in the Zoom, or by phone, press *9 and our meeting host will notify me that you wish to speak. I'm Mayor Jerry Peterman. I'd like to confirm all the members and person anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members present, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Mayor Pro Tem Chip Turner,
Present.
Councilmember Melody Wiggins,
Present.
Councilmember Jennifer Talley,
Here.
Councilmember Ricky Hall.
Here.
Staff participants, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Interim City Manager Aaron Holland,
Here.
City Attorney Brian Coleman,
Here.
Planning Director Nathan Page,
Present.
IT Systems Manager Jeff Williams,
Present.
Parks and Recreation Director Brian Fawcett,
He's here, but he cannot speak. I haven't promoted him. Doing so right now.
and I believe Mary Fawcett also has taken Darcy Sperry's place. Is that right?
Present.
Thank you, Mary. All right, now we'll go to Chip Turner, who will do our invocation. Chip, if you would, please, sir.
Bow your heads with me, please. Our Heavenly Father, be with us tonight as we manage the business of the city of Graham. Be with our staff and our citizens as we go through these troublesome times. Everyone remember, please remember, in your heart and in your prayers, the family of our city clerk, Darcy Sperry, as they go through the loss of her mother. Always protect those that protect us. These things we ask in your name. Amen.
Would you please rise for our Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we'll go to our consent agenda. A, approval of minutes, March 4th. B, approval of minutes, March 9th. C, approval resolution declaring the intention of the city of Graham to consider the permanent closing of a portion of an alleyway on Climax Street. D, adopt a master plan for the Graham Recreation and Parks Master Plan. And E, annexation ordinance fixing clerical error for voluntary non-contiguous annexation. Does anybody want to pull anything off the consent agenda?
I do, your mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
If we could discuss the Graham Rec master plan, item D. And then in regard to the minutes, I believe there was something in the minutes that was lacking. Hold on one second. So item B.
Item B. Anybody else? Then I need a motion to approve A, C, and E of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, sirs. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you, ma'am. All in favor, I'll say so by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, let's go to B, approve minutes, March 9th. Jennifer, did you find where it was?
It was in regard to the section, let me pull it up here on here, that talked about, actually printed it out, but it didn't look like I saw it here. The section where it states on page, oh, I don't know why this says 141, but under requests and petitions from citizens,
Uh-huh.
it states about following a brief discussion about recusal, Melody Wiggins made a motion to recuse Councilmember Talley, seconded by Mayor Peterman. Mayor Peterman polled the councils. A's Councilmember Wiggins, Mayor Peterman, and Mayor Pro Tem Turner voted in favor of recusing myself. And nays were Councilmember Talley and Councilmember Hall, but I don't recall having a vote in that.
Okay, we'll send that to the city clerk and
I
have her
mean,
go through the.
if I did, I don't recall that.
It's fine. We will.
And then after that, my mic got muted, so I wasn't able to really, I know we had a discussion, but I don't know if this is really reflective of after, because it says after the discussion.
Okay.
So I don't think I was able to speak after the discussion.
We will have Darcy go over the minutes, the recording of the minutes, and bring it back
I
to
mean,
us
that
next
was
month.
the same night that we were having problems. I was speaking and you weren't hearing me, so I assumed that my mic got muted because I was talking, but no,
Possibility.
no one was responding.
Okay. Is that the only problem you have with it? If it is, we will make a motion to approve the minutes with that exception until it can be looked at by the city clerk.
Yes.
Aaron, would that be fine?
That shouldn't be a problem. So are you not going to vote to approve the March
I was-
9th minutes?
I was going to vote to approve the minutes with that exception and have it brought back to us next month after Darcy can look at the recording.
Yeah, it's no problem. We can check that really easy.
Okay. If that is all right with everyone, then I will make a motion that we approve section B of the consent agenda with the exception that Ms. Tally has brought forth and Darcy look at it to bring back to us next month.
Mr. Mayor, second your motion.
Thank you, Ricky. Then all in favor, say aye.
Uh,
All opposed likewise. Okay, good. Let's go to D, adopt a master plan for Graham Recreation. Your concerns there, please.
I think I had read in one section that the Parks and Rec Commission reviewed this, made changes, and then did they have an actual vote of recommendation for approval?
Are you
Yes,
there,
ma'am, they
Brian?
did.
Okay,
Okay, so it wasn't, there's two different committees, right? There's a committee that does the master plan and then there's the rec committee. So obviously the people that put it together, they passed it, but the people that are not on this specific committee that are on the rec committee, they also had a meeting and reviewed it and made changes and it is recommending to us to approve it. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. I had just like a general question just about, I know that you had gotten some feedback from people about like the boats and stuff, I guess. That seemed to be a very popular thing that people wanted. Is that something that you're looking at doing in the future with this master plan? Or is that just something that you would be like looking to fund on its own? Like, do
I'm
you
sorry,
have to have
Jen,
the master, do you have to have the master plan in place in order to do those things? To move forward with those things?
the only thing that the master plan is required to move forward on are larger state grants such as the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund grant, in which over the years we funded probably close to $1 million in projects with state funds. But the master plan itself does not tie the city to anything in particular. It just will not, without adoption by the city council, it will not allow me to apply for those types of grants that require master planning processes.
Okay. It had a lot of really good work in it. Was there a reason that in the inclusion, so I commend you because I know it's probably took you a very long time to put this together and I appreciate all the board members' hard work on doing this, but in regards to, you know, I guess you're asked for the budgets. Is there things in here that you're using in order to be able to do that? I mean, this is obviously a planning tool, but is it only used for your to get grants? And do you have grants that you're looking at getting this upcoming year, or are you going to be using this for like an implementation policy?
Oh, we'll use this daily. And I mean, you mentioned inclusion briefly, and that's one of the policies towards the end of the document that is stated that it would be best practice for us to adopt. So staff and I are currently wordsmithing our inclusion policy to then go before our Recreation Commission tomorrow night. They'll review it, they'll give some input, and then we'll bring a draft before council. So that's the sort of thing that this master plan is using. We'll use it to kind of guide us in the future. A couple of other things are the, excuse me, the transportation, linking sidewalks and transportation routes across Alamance County. That's going to be a larger plan that will be more than just 2021, 2022. That will take many years into the future to realize. So it's things like that that the plan will help guide our staff over the next 5 to 10 years.
So I'm glad you mentioned that because that was where I was going with this was obviously there's things in here that are pretty big ass, like a senior center. That's something that I know, obviously council members change, but it's been something that I think several council members have been working towards, at some point, getting a senior center here in Graham or maybe doing something that isn't, seems like with the rec center, that's kind of a makeshift senior center, but it seems to constantly deal with scheduling issues and things like that. But to have those kind of things, I guess that's more of my question, that has everybody on the council, like, are we just gonna generally pass this master plan? Or are we saying that everything in this master plan is going to be something that we're supporting?
I think what we're doing is giving him a working tool to work with the state, and he had a grading schedule in there, as you saw. The grading schedule gives him what he wants to start first, what his highest priorities are. It's not locking you into those priorities personally as far as the city council goes, or as far as budgeting goes. It's just a working plan that he is striving to do. Is that right, Brian?
Yes, sir. That was well said.
Right, I just don't want you to be, you see my concern of you possibly applying for a grant regarding something that maybe you didn't have I guess it might be in here, but it may not be able to be approved by the council.
Sure.
Do you see where I'm going on that?
Yes, anytime we go after a grant that requires matching money, we come before council and make sure that relationship and that's a supported idea from council. More than likely, it will require more money for the project than just the general 100% match or 80% match or 50% match, whatever it may be. So that's definitely something that I would come back to council before completely submitting a grant for a large project.
The section on the inclusion policy, you talk about the that being, it's just a template in there. Is there a reason that that's not like all, is that recommended by the, I don't know, is Piedmont Triad, whatever, I don't know the acronym for that, but was that recommended by that organization, or is that, I mean, I guess I was just confused why it was just a template and it wasn't filled out with our information.
This is a template created by the National Recreation and Park Association, which is our national professional association. So this is a template used by recreation departments across our country to then formalize our own plan. And that's the process we're going through right now. So the template you see in the master plan is simply that, simply a template, simply a suggestion. This should be included. You may want to consider this, that type of thing. Again, we're going through it with staff at the current moment. Tomorrow night, our Recreation Commission will meet and they will give input, and we'll go through multiple drafts before we come and present anything more formal.
Okay. There was a lot of ways to pay for things, and some being impact fees and lots of different interesting. I actually enjoyed reading through all of that. I think you did an excellent job on what you put together. I just want to make sure that there's a consistency between what you're putting together and working on and what whoever this council makeup is. And so I'm glad to hear that you're coming to us and before you do a lot of work on something that may or may not be funded, because obviously money right now is limited as we look to the budget for this upcoming year. So those were my questions. Thank you, Mayor.
Brian, on page 2 of the same document, you've got Kristen Herndon still listed as the city's staff liaison, I guess. Should that be changed now, or should it be changed in the future? Or did she do the load of the work that would leave her name in there?
I would prefer to leave Kristen's name in there because she was on staff and did a tremendous amount of work for this document.
Okay, I figured it's something. Okay, anybody else have any questions?
Mr. Mayor, make a motion that we adopt this.
Thank you, sir. Would you look at page 13? I'm sorry, page 15, and I think your motion will be there for you. Motion to approve is fine. I need a second for this.
Second.
Thank you, ma'am. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Thank you, Brian. Great document. We appreciate your hard work and time. And I know you've still got Kristen on your list of people to thank, so send her an email for us thanking her.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Next, we go to the old business. Public hearing, RZ 2010 Riverbend Business, request by Travis Webb. We have a request for this and B to be pulled until another time. Is that not right, Nathan?
Mr. Mayor, that's correct. I do think that you ought to vote independently on item 2A and 2B to table them.
We will. I just wanted you to mention that they both want to be postponed.
Yes, sir.
Okay. With that, I'll make a motion to postpone the public hearing of RZ 2010. That's item A on the old business. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you, sir. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. I'll also make a motion.
Mayor Peterman,
Yes,
my apologies. Was that tabled to the next meeting?
yes, please.
Thank you.
I will also mention B, public hearing. I'll make a motion to postpone that to the next meeting.
I second your motion.
Thank you, sir. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Next, we'll go to C, public hearing petition for voluntary contiguous annexation of 2+ acres lot located on 1342 Jimmy Kerr Road. Nathan, are you handling this for us, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. The attached petition seeks the council's approval for an extension of the corporate limits to include the subject property. The area being considered for annexation is at 1342 Jimmy Carr Road and makes up approximately 2 acres. Water lines are adjacent to the location, and the applicant wishes to tie onto the city's infrastructure. The applicant is aware that sewer is not available for this parcel at this time. The application process has multiple steps. Following today's public hearing, approval of the annexation ordinance is the final step for council in the annexation process.
Thanks, sir. Questions for the staff? Start with the Mayor Pro Tem, please.
No questions.
Melody, please.
No questions.
Jennifer?
If, I think I'm on the right one, but is this the one, did staff recommend approval for this or not?
Staff recommended
Yes.
approval.
We did.
Okay, all right, I just wanted to make sure this was the right one. Okay, no questions.
Thanks. Ricky, questions?
Yes, sir.
I also have no questions. Let me read the statement number 2 here. If anyone in attendance would like to speak during this agenda item, please indicate that you wish to do so by using the raise hand feature in Zoom, or if by phone, press *9 to notify the host you wish to speak. We will recognize you at the appropriate time to speak. If you're having technical difficulties, please contact Preston Jenkins at 336-347-8674 to provide your comments to be read. I'll go to Preston. Anybody on the floor have anything to add to this? Richard, you're the only one here. Tom, no. Jeff, have you got anybody that wants to speak?
We've got one hand raised, sir.
All right.
Craig, you have your hand raised. You've been unmuted. State your name and address, please, for the record.
My name is Craig Robertson. I live at 412 Springwood Avenue, Gibsonville, North Carolina, 27249.
Craig, it's good to hear from you. I miss you.
Good to see you, Jerry. I miss you.
Yes, sir.
We just want to tap onto the water. Like Nathan said, we know the sewer's not available or water's bad. I'm doing this for my wife and her family. And we just appreciate the steps we've already taken. Nathan's been a big help to us, and just want to say thank you.
Craig, would you mind if I poll the council and see if they have any questions for you?
No, sir.
Okay. Start with Jennifer, please.
No questions.
Ricky,
No questions.
Melody,
No, sir.
Mayor Pro Tem.
No questions.
Craig, thank you for being here. We appreciate it, and good luck with this, sir.
Thank you, Jerry.
Craig and I have sat and talked about this situation he's in his mother-in-law's home for several years. Their water has slowly become worse and worse, and they're almost forced into this situation that they're in right now. Believe me, they do not want to come into the city. They would rather stay outside the city, but their water is the color of mud, and they wish to do something about this. Is there any other statements anybody wants to make about this?
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the annexation ordinance to extend the corporate limits of the city of Graham, North Carolina for 2+ acres at 1342 Jimmy Carr Road.
I
Thank you,
second the
ma'am.
motion.
Thank you, Rick. I've got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Oh, I did. Let's do that one more time, because I got to close the public hearing, and Tom called me on that, and I will do that. We will close that public hearing, and let's repeat the motion if you would, Melody, please.
Certainly, I move we approve the annexation ordinance to extend to the corporate limits of the city of Graham, North Carolina for 2+ acres at 1342 Jimmy Carr Road.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I second the motion.
Thank you, sir. All in favor, say aye again.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. We hadn't been live in so long, I've lost my edge here. Okay, next we go to requests and petitions from citizens. First reading, temporary outdoor sales, request by Patrick Miller to amend Chapter 8, Article 8, Section 8345 of the Code of Ordinances. And Aaron, you're handling this?
Yes, sir, Mayor. This actually looks very familiar to what you discussed last month. We were tasked, staff was, to find a way to come up with some solution that might be able to help Mr. Miller's situation or anyone else that's in a similar situation, especially during these COVID times. We did consult with the attorneys, and what we have before you now is a draft ordinance that allows for the 5 days within a 7-day period. Our current ordinance has it as 3 days within that 7-day period. So this one's 5 days within a 7-day period, but it has it where it expires, the ordinance expires on June 1st of this year. And then it reverts back to our current ordinance, which is the 3 within the 7 days. Just a note on the date, that is an arbitrary number. That was a date that was just put out there. You obviously can change that date to another date if you want to push it out further or even shorten it. Just want to make note of that, and I will answer any questions you have at this time.
Question for staff. I'll start with the Mayor Pro Tem again, please.
What date was that again?
June 1st.
It's June 1st. Yes, sir.
So if this is approved, this ordinance, this temporary or is a temporary ordinance, and it becomes nullified June 1st, and we go back to the old ordinance.
That's correct. Unless before June 1st, council wants to change it before that date. June 1st date is the deadline.
So at that time, we will go back to the old ordinance.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Melody, Jennifer, sorry. Looked at you one way.
I don't even know why this is on the agenda. We have a standing rule that once something is voted on, it doesn't come back up before the council for 6 months. I think, obviously, had I been allowed to speak on the ordinance that was being addressed last month, I would have been happy to say, why don't we just table this? Find out whether Ms. Talley can vote on it or not vote on it. But you proceeded to silence me and vote going forward. So I'm sorry. I would love to be able to help Patrick Miller out, but because you went ahead and had a vote, I don't think that we can really even address this issue because it's already been asked and voted on, and it's the issue is dead according to Robert's Rules of Order.
Brian, you want to answer that question since you looked at this?
About the voting, was, I can't remember, was the vote for an approval that wasn't approved?
It was a vote for denial. It's in the
Okay.
minutes.
I
I literally, if I would have been able to speak, I was actually going to ask for a motion of the board to table it, and we could have done this, but they proceeded to vote without me.
Is this is in the Code of Ordinances, and I think I may be wrong, but I think the 6 months where you can't is on zoning ordinances. I think this is in the code of ordinances and not under the development ordinances.
I know that we have had a longstanding rule and an agreement among our council members for sure that we would not, because if you don't get the vote you want, then you would just bring it up every single month. I mean, you know, once it's been asked and voted on, it needs to be a dead issue.
No, not all issues are that way. Something having to do with zoning is, if you reflect back, we had a city councilman that brought up a problem with the city lake for years. Every month he brought the problem up with the city lake.
Jerry, I know that you remember that one of the biggest complaints that kept coming up in regards to food trucks was that people felt like it constantly kept being put on the agenda. And we said, we voted on it. We're not going to bring it back up for 6 months. I mean, I'm happy to go to the minutes.
You'll have to
Let's
find that
table
in the
it
minutes.
tonight and let's go to the minutes, because I know for sure that in this, I mean, literally the exact same issue.
That's not why. Let me go back. That's
Hold
not
on,
why
wait.
it was tabled for 6 months.
Hold on just 1 second. Let's go ahead and finish your thought. Is that it? Then I'll go to Melody and let her.
Well, it kept being brought up time and time
But I'm
again.
just saying
when-
legally, the thing that is 6 month is zoning. It's not anything having to do with this.
Yes,
I believe that's correct.
I understand what you're saying, Jerry, but as you well know, I know that you know this, we don't keep bringing stuff up when we don't get the decision we don't want. It's like it just continues to get put on the agenda time and time again. And I remember you specifically saying, you know, these people don't want to have to come every single month.
I agree with you 100% on that. This is somebody trying to survive, and this is a different time. And this is a change from last month. It's not the same as last month.
It's the exact same issue. It's the exact same issue that we tabled and said it would not be brought up again because it was brought up month after month after month, and it was tabled for 6 months.
I don't think so. I think what we did, we settled the issue by voting.
Okay, well, let's
a
table it for 30 days and let's see if that's correct. We can look through the minutes and see if that's correct.
All right, Melody, now.
I know that's not correct. We tabled it just because it kept coming back up and you agreed, this council agreed to table it for 6 months. It is not law. It is not the procedure that is normally done. That was done in that specific incident. So it's not law unless Brian can bring that forward tonight, unless you can say that it is law, which I don't believe that it is. That again was a different story. And it was done intentionally to give them time. My question to you is, you've got two different things listed here editorially. You've got Chapter 8, Article 8 down on your motion, and you've got Chapter 8, Article 3 on the second page. Guys, which is correct?
That should be chapter 8. That is Article 8, I believe. I'm looking it up as we speak. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Regardless, if the reference was just section 8-345, it would be sufficient to cover. The article is redundant.
Okay, thank you. Again, Mr. Mayor, my question would be is, do we need to recuse Ms. Talley at this time?
I think this is a different situation than even last month. They've added the date that this thing ends. I think this is no different than her voting on the tax levy, in my opinion. What does everybody else think?
What is the difference from last month to this month? I would
Last
love a clarification on that.
Last month, there was a ban on the stuff. I voted against. I was the only one voted against it. Anyway, it was 4-1 last month. I voted that way because I feel like the COVID is a different situation, that we needed to help everyone. And that was a change in the ordinance. This is a sort of a sunset ordinance in my opinion. And I feel like you're all right to vote on this because it will end in June 1st. So.
Okay, tell me how COVID has anything to do with whether I am to vote on an issue or not vote on an issue. I would like for Melody to state the specific reason that I was silenced, even though the citizens of Graham have elected me for this seat to vote specifically on this issue. I would like the stated reason as to why I was asked to recuse myself and her objection to me voting and where I have a conflict.
Because you did have an actual
I own
com-
one business that deals in the food industry. Melody owns one business that deals with the food industry. So tell me where I have any more of a conflict than she has.
You have a conflict
I?
in the, no, ma'am.
Okay.
I will take that. You have a
Sure.
conflict in that you ran saying this would ruin your business or would hurt your business. So it was actually a financial thing.
That, oh my gosh, okay. Let me read directly from my attorney in regard to General Statutes 160A75. No member shall be excused from voting except upon matters involving consideration of the member's own financial interest or official conduct, or on matters on which the member is prohibited from voting under General Statutes 14.234, 160A-381D, 160A, 388E2, in all other cases except votes taken under General Statutes 160A, 385, a failure to vote by a member who is physically present in the council chamber or who has withdrawn without being excused by a majority vote of the remaining members shall be recorded as an affirmation vote. The question on the compensation and allowances of members to council members is not a matter involving a member's own financial interest or official conduct. So I will just say that and Jerry, I think you're misrepresenting how I ran on a particular issue. I mean, there is so much information on conflict of interest, and there is literally, food trucks could not ruin my business. I could only benefit from food trucks because I could rent to food trucks. I mean, personally, if I own property, right, I could only benefit from it. So how does it make sense that I can't vote on an issue and the whole reason I'm voting, I don't want food trucks down here 24/7 is the aesthetics. We passed a facade grant, and this was my position before I got on the council, and how I ran it had nothing to do with food trucks putting me out of business. That's ludicrous. I literally hire food trucks for events all the time. They don't hurt me at all whatsoever. So, as far as my financial stability of my business, it really has absolutely nothing to do with food trucks. It doesn't affect me any more than it affects Melody. In regards to why I don't want food trucks to be down here 24/7, I don't want them to become in a dilapidated state in which they're there all the time and then get run down and have tires that are, flat and things like that. And just the aesthetics of what food trucks sometimes look like when they're allowed to be able to sit on a property for months and months and months at a time, and they're only inspected once a year. I have voiced this as my concerns before I got on the council as well, that someone could theoretically set up food trucks at the gas stations down here on Main Street. What good is it for us to have passed? I mean, I'm the one that submitted the request, I don't know, over 15 years ago or whatever, for us to have the overlay district. So it's counterintuitive when we're trying to protect an overlay district and say, we want this overlay and we want this pathway from the interstate coming to our downtown historic district to look a certain way. And then we allow a school bus from 1964 to set up and be there and not have a brick and mortar. I mean, you're telling everybody on Main Street what kind of building materials they can have on their facade, all of that with the overlay district, but then you're going to let a 1974 bus sit there. It's just inconsistent. I have no problem at all whatsoever with food trucks. I just think that food trucks have their purpose. And I think that when we need to be supporting restaurants in our downtown, throughout our community here in Graham, especially during the pandemic. I want to do something to help Patrick Miller in what he was trying to do. I wasn't against him, being able to set his food truck out there. But I wasn't allowed to be able to say what I thought about the whole thing because I was kind of ramrodded in my opinion. But, I wasn't even able to defend myself, and no stated purpose was given as to why I had a conflict.
Okay, anybody else got anything? Hold on, let me go with the council. We're asking the staff questions right now. I'll come to you. Anybody else got any questions for the staff?
I
Mr.
do.
Mayor, I'm sorry.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Manager, do you have a letter from the Institute of Governments regarding the recusal of Ms. Councilmember Talley last month?
I have I have an email that was saying that Brian, he may be able to speak on it because he was actually the one that sent it to Adam Lovelady with the School of Government. Brian, you mind?
Yeah,
I know
no,
you-
I'll
I know
be
you- I
glad
know you
to.
have it handy.
Yeah. And, okay, so sometime after the council meeting, I emailed Adam Lovelady with the School of Government and kind of set out the facts as I remembered them taking place, and just pretty much asked him if that was permissible, the way it was done, with the objection, and then the council voting to recuse Jennifer or Miss Talley. And then I asked him another question, well, regarding whether or not Miss Talley should have or could have or was supposed to or not supposed to vote on her own recusal. And basically the answer back is pretty generic. And he indicates for us to review the 160A-75 on conflicts, or 160D, which we haven't adopted yet, so we're under 160A-75. And he does give us a little guidance, more like with regard to if there is an objection by a council member to another one voting, then his opinion was that the majority vote of the remaining members, they vote as to whether or not that person should be able to participate or not. He cited 160. He cited 160D in depth, but then he said also 168-75 talks about a majority of the vote of the remaining members, not including the one requested to be recused. So that's it in a nutshell. Like I say, his guidance was pretty generic. He deferred to any local rules or anything we had, but to the best of my knowledge, going back to the downtown plan, we just kind of looked at 168-75.
Thank you. Mr. Coleman, have you received a letter of Ms. Talley's from Ms. Talley's attorney?
No,
The
no,
one
ma'am.
that she read tonight? Thank you.
No, ma'am.
Anybody else got any questions for the staff? And Tom, have you got a question for us?
Yes, sir. Let me start with procedural. Is the item that's on the agenda, temporary outdoor sales request from Patrick Miller, is this different from last month's agenda item?
I think it is. This does not change the ordinance except a 3-month variance is all it is.
And is that from Patrick Miller, or is that a staff derivative?
It was requested from Patrick Miller.
Procedurally.
Yes, sir.
Different procedure. On the issues of conflicts and recusal, was Ms. Talley made aware of both the request to the Institute of Government and its response?
That I don't know because I wasn't privy to it either.
You want me to answer that?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Actually, Miss Talley had requested that I write the Institute of Government, and so a couple of weeks went by before I did write them. I told her what the answer was through an email. I can't remember if it was late last week or what, but I got an email wanting the emails that I received between me and Adam Lovelady. So I scanned those and I copied and I sent them to Miss Talley. That was today. So she does have them, although they were a few hours before the council meeting.
Mr. Mayor, just further on from the Institute of Government, we also have made inquiry to them, not this same person that Brian is quoting from, but another person who at least I understand to be.
Excuse me, guys. Mr. Mayor, you need to have him speak into a mic. No one online can hear him.
Does this work?
I don't know. Jennifer's is actually a wireless mic. If you'll take it over 5 feet away from her, please. 6 feet, excuse me. There you go. And then give it back because she'll need it again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was saying, we had also made inquiry to the Institute of Government for a different person. And there were several points that Frida Bluestein had recommended that the council did not observe at its last meeting. And that is the specificity of what the conflict is, which she's alluded to tonight, needed to have been directly stated, which I don't think it was. And then some legal input from the city attorney, which I do not recall there being any. And there's still the question of whether or not she could, and frankly, whether she did vote on the recusal question. I remember it differently from the way she asked about it in the minutes. Y'all will look that up and find out. But as I have mentioned in another venue, the idea of any member telling another member that they cannot vote is frankly locally unprecedented. And I think needs to be handled with extreme care, with great focus on legality, preferably with advance notice that there's an intention to have somebody recused, allow the lawyers to evaluate it ahead of time so that they can weigh in, instead of having the council sort of on the fly deciding that she or any other member can or cannot participate in a particular topic or discussion.
Thank you, sir. Jeff, have we got anybody else?
No, sir, not at this time.
Anybody from the floor? Yes.
One of the things that we talked about when we talked about conflicts of interest, even before I got on the council, in speaking with David Owens, and I'll read directly so that you know, Melody, I'm happy to give you a copy of this.
I don't need it, Jennifer. I already have the law.
Many of
And
the
Freda
persons-
Bluestein, by the way, is not the person that we go to in the state for both of you.
Many of this, I didn't say Bloomstein, I said David Owens.
Either one of you.
David Owens, many of the persons serving on boards making land use regulatory decisions are directly involved in development issues. Since early days of zoning, it's been common for developers, builders, real estate agents, surveyors, engineers, architects, and lawyers to be disproportionately represented on boards making legislative and quasi-judicial land use decisions. More recently, neighborhood activists, conservationists, and others have also joined these boards. Given the strong impact development regulation has on these interests, it's hardly surprising that these are the most directly affected by the decisions actively seek our membership on these boards. You know, definitely we are affected, but does that mean that we can't be impartial? They bring expertise and well-informed perspectives to the crafting and implementation of development regulation. But the participation in decision-making by so many persons who may be personally affected by decisions presents need for safeguards to assure that these decisions are being made in the public interest, not in personal financial interest of the board. I would like, as I've stated several times here tonight, what is the personal financial gain from Patrick Miller in this particular instance, or any person using this ordinance from now until June? What is, or even the one that was last month that didn't sunset in June? Tell me what direct financial benefit that I have from that. I would like to know what
This
that
one, I
is.
don't think you have a problem with. I think the one last month changed it forever unless the council revisited it. And I think you actually ran against this in your.
Patrick Miller came and spoke against food trucks, and he owns a food truck. He does
If you
not
allow
want
me to
food trucks
speak
to
now,
be down
you
there.
want me to tell you what I think. This is what I think. I think that this is a different ordinance type thing. This has got a sundown type thing in June the 1st. The other one changed our ordinance forever unless the council voted on it again. So I think this was different, and that's just my opinion. I'm not a lawyer. Brian is all right with what we're trying to do here. I think he's all right with allowing you to do this since it ends June the 1st.
Was Brian okay with me? Brian, have you spoken with Bob to see if it would have been okay for me to vote at the last meeting?
I did, yep, and he helped me draft the letter or the email to Adam Lovelady. And in that email, I do point out to Adam Lovelady that there wasn't a lot of conversation. There wasn't a chance for you to say why you thought you didn't have a conflict or did have a conflict. So, I did address that with him. But what was the question again, Jennifer? Did Bob know about it? Yes, he did. Yeah.
Well, did Bob think that I should not have voted in the last meeting in regards to the subject, or did he not offer an opinion?
I think we're getting in from not necessarily a legal question, but a factual question, which I don't think either one of us are willing to weigh in on that at this point. I was asked a legal question and not a factual question last time. So I think I tried to answer the legal question.
Is there a reason that Bob's not here tonight?
He had a prior commitment. He couldn't be here.
Answering the legal question, should she or should she not have voted last month?
I would have to have more facts and all. If you're asking me to make a legal conclusion, according to what Adam Lovelady says, if a council member, if there's an objection to a council member voting, then the rest of the council votes to determine whether they are going to be allowed to vote or not vote. But I think the question being posed to me is, should she have voted or not? And I don't think I'm in a position to make a conclusion, a factual finding as to whether or not.
If you're not in position, there's nobody in position. You are a city attorney. You have to be in position to make these kind of calls.
Well, I think there's a distinction, Mayor Peterman, between being asked if somebody should vote and being asked, what the next step is in the process. We don't necessarily get over into if there's an actual conflict or not, or trying to determine and make a factual determination on that conflict.
How can he make a decision when no issue of conflict and the stated reason was not given in the meeting? I would still like to hear an answer to my question. What is the stated reason?
From my knowledge, you ran against food trucks. That was one of the things you ran.
Melody made the motion. Is that her contention?
Well, I'm sure it was. But if I've made a mistake, I'll be glad to say that I made a mistake. But Brian, this is where you're supposed to be our legal advisor. You need to tell me yes or no. And I would ask if we can drop this discussion until we do find a yes or no about last month. We can move on to this agenda item, but let's move on. Let's find out if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'll be glad to apologize. The motion did not pass. Her vote would have not mattered, except for her being able to vote.
Let me state here and now, my vote does matter. Just
you know
for
what
the,
I mean.
I understand that, Jerry, but when you say things like that, it seems like if I have a certain position in which this council that has 3 members that want to team up together, if I'm in favor of that, then I have no conflict. But then, I mean, we literally had this discussion so many times when Lee Kimmery was on this council and I wasn't on the council, and it was perfectly fine for him to vote on everything. And oh, you're just backing him up because he's voting the way you want him to vote. I'm not voting the way you want. I'm voting with the people. I do not believe people want to see buses out here and doing that. If you guys would have crafted an ordinance that said that if you're gonna have a food truck, that it have some sort of visibility it's gonna be aesthetically pleasing to the eye. When we put all these restrictions on all these buildings going down both 54 and Highway 87, would be okay with that. But as the ordinance was written, it allowed for people to be able to put anything out there, and it really looked very trashy, quite frankly. And I am all about protecting that corridor coming in from the interstate, both down 54 and 87. And that is the reason that I have not wanted food trucks to be out here 24/7. If you have some other idea of me not wanting food trucks for some other reason, I mean, please let me know what that is. But the issue of food trucks being able to ruin my business is ludicrous.
I didn't say it would ruin your business. I say it would be competition without brick and mortar. And you did state that. Let's move on to what we're trying to vote on right now. And we will come back and find a answer to this question between now and next month. And that answer, if I'm wrong, I'll be glad to apologize. I truly will.
I just have one business. She has one business. She's
You
allowed to
own
vote.
quite
I'm
a
not
few
allowed.
Mr. Mayor, let me correct
No,
that real
no,
quick.
no, this is ended.
Okay.
This discussion
Let
is
me
done.
correct. Their information, both of them, you're wrong. Absolutely wrong. You need to check your facts.
All right, this discussion is over as far as
Sit down,
last
Tom.
month until I get an answer.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to address one of the other issues that you brought up.
I'd like to address one of the other issues that you brought up in your comments.
Quickly.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, about a year ago, after the council hired the current city attorneys, the council decided to change its night of meeting, as I understood it, partially so that the senior attorney, who is a councilman on another board, would not have a conflict of interest the same night. Y'all used to both meet on the first Tuesday of the month. Y'all changed yours to the second Tuesday. And yet, the other councilman, who is the other attorney, has generally not been present. And
You're
it
calling
seems,
him the senior attorney. There's not a senior attorney. They're partners in this. And we had our business to say one of them will be here, not both of them, every meeting. So that's the reason this is. If he's got another appointment, Bob has got a lot of stuff going on. So
Mr. Mayor, I would say with all due respect to Mr. Coleman, Mr. Ward is far senior in experience in municipal law and in many degrees of municipal law. By all means, he and I do not agree all the time, including on an example that may come up later tonight. But on this kind of issue, it seems to me the council should be getting his opinion or some outside opinion, but getting a firm legal understanding.
agreed. That's why I asked to move it to next month.
Not just on last month's, but as a general rule going forward.
Okay. We're going to move to what we've got here as far as business on hand, and we will come up with a decision on whether or not I did wrong last month. And that's fine. If I have, I will apologize deeply. So let's move back to requests and petitions, first reading, temporary outdoor sales. Have we got any more questions for the staff? Have we got any questions from the floor? Jeff, have we got any call-ins?
No, sir, not this time.
Okay, so let's talk about it among ourselves. What does everybody think?
I would like to do something to help Patrick Miller be able to have his food truck out there and do business, but I don't want to change the ordinance.
Even temporarily?
Well, number one, it was brought up and voted on again. I'll just restate that issue. I don't like it when you don't get the answer that you want, that you just keep bringing it up every single month until you get the answer that you want. It got defeated, but clearly, you control the agenda and you can keep putting it on there, I guess, since we don't have a legal reason. We all had an agreement that we wouldn't continue to do that, but again, just doesn't seem that we want to stick
This
to
is
what we
different,
do.
This does have a sundown effect instead of completely changing the ordinance. They added a sundown thing
Jerry,
for
I
June the
can
1st.
send you the video of you specifically stating, we cannot keep bringing these people back every single month. It's not going to come up for 6 months. I mean, Don Penny knows that. I mean, everybody saw what you
And I
said.
agree 100% that we
So
should not be
why are we
forced
doing
in.
that again? I'm not saying I don't
Because
want to
this is
help him.
different times, Jennifer. This is the COVID virus is on us. This man's trying to
So can we
survive.
help him without changing the ordinance?
Mayor, are we changing the ordinance
Allowing
or
to
just
break the
temporarily
ordinance.
changing the ordinance?
This is a temporary
It's a
stay.
temporary change. It goes back June the 1st, from what I've heard. Is that
It
correct?
ends June the 1st.
Yes, and goes back to the old ordinance.
Yes.
So it's not a permanent change in the ordinance.
No, it's not.
Well, it doesn't really matter what I think, so. You have the votes, Mayor, so.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the ordinance amendment to Chapter 8, Section 8-345 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Graham, North Carolina.
I've got a motion. I'll ask for a second.
Second.
So I've got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise.
No.
Nay.
Motion is approved 3-2, and we will come back to this next month with the idea whether or not I did wrong or not. I have done wrong before, and I apologize for that when I did. All right, the next thing we've got. Recommendations from the planning board, public hearing, RZ 2103 Cherry Industrial. Nathan, have you got this, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. This is a request to rezone the property. The property currently has the residence of the Eckinger family upon it, as well as land that has been under cultivation in the past. The parcel appears to be marketed in conjunction with the light industrial product land to the north and may be difficult to serve with residential services due to the distance from the city center.
Questions for staff? Start with Ricky, please.
Nathan, are these people going to vacate the property once it is zoned for I-1? Are they going to continue to live there?
The applicants are here. I'm not sure what their future residency plans are, but they may be able to answer that.
That's the only questions I got.
Okay, we'll come back to the applicants, Rick, if they want to speak, okay? Jennifer, questions for the staff?
Nope.
Mayor Pro Tem,
No questions.
Melody, questions for the staff?
No, sir.
I have one. Was the reasoning for the planning board to table this? What was their reason, Nathan?
The planning board tabled the next item. It may be confusing because they tabled so many.
What did they do on this one? Then I apologize.
The recommendation was to deny, and if I remember correctly, it was 3-2.
And why was there reason to deny?
There was no stated reason on the sheet, but if I recall correctly, the topic of truck traffic came up on many occasions.
And the residential nature of the remaining parts of the ground.
As I read it, yeah, I read that also. That it was a residential area too. Okay. Thank you, sir. All right, if I got anybody on the floor who wants to speak on this? Jeff, have you got anybody that wants to speak?
Mayor Peterman, I believe that we did receive one public comment, and I think Ms. Fawcett was going to read it.
Mary, thank you, if you would, please.
Hi, this is Tanya Whitfield, property owner of 2300 Cherry Lane, Haw River, North Carolina, 27258. Here's my concerns with it becoming an industrial rezoning. I worry that it will have a negative impact on the wildlife by taking down all of their habitat, forcing them into more open areas and crossing busy interstates and roads, which will lead to more and more accidents. Also, it will create problems for us residents that utilize the land for that of the good of its natural resources. I'm concerned that the wildlife will also start to attack the cows from lack of food. I personally have planted many fruit trees, have an organic garden, and this worries me that the chemicals or the pollution will destroy everything that I have tried to protect and build throughout the years. I'm assuming that it becoming industrial will raise the taxes that need to be paid, and at some point would make us, the residents, have our rights taken away, as they can come in and put in new side roads or pretty much anything to their liking. I'm in the center of two properties, one that is 56 acres for sale and the other which is 40. I can't see how it would affect everything that is all around me on all sides, with sitting slap dab in the middle of all of those properties for sale. I cherish this family property that has been passed to me from my grandparents so much that I would hope that you would consider not making it industrial and causing much grief to someone who cares about the wildlife and what will happen to it, and how this change would affect my grandkids that will attain this land after I'm gone. We have to care about our planet and what we do with it. It's the only thing that we have left. I'm sorry that this wasn't more organized, as I was trying to write down a few of my concerns, although there is more, but not very much time to address them. But in no way do I approve of the land becoming industrial and the effects that it will have on everyone who has lived here for over a decade and enjoys nature, their privacy, and their want to have a clean air, and a love for conserving nature. Thanks for allowing me to express my concerns, and I wish the land sellers the best of luck. Sincerely, Tanya Whitfield.
Thank you, Mary. Have you got any more?
No, sir.
Jeff, have you got anyone else? Jeff? Okay, lost Jeff. All right.
Mayor
Go ahead.
Peterman, the
Try
applicant-
it. Try it now, Jeff. You've been unmuted.
Okay, now this is Jeff Jeannie.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
How are you?
Good. This is Jeff and Jeannie Eichinger. We live at 2230 Cherry Lane, Haw River, 27258. Jeannie and I have lived on Cherry Lane since 1984, and in some ways, we're still the new kids on the block. But our neighbors have always made us feel like we're an important part of the neighborhood, and many of them have treated us like family, inviting us to their holiday gatherings year after year and letting us help take care of their elderly family members. Now we have to move away to take care of our own elderly family. And because of that, we'll be needing the proceeds from selling our land. But if someone were to think that because we're moving, we don't care what happens to this neighborhood, they could not be more wrong. We talk about one example of this on pages 93 and 94 in the agenda packet. We put a lot of thought into how I-1 zoning for our land might affect adjacent landowners. And even though most of the owners don't live on those properties, which means they'd be less affected by the rezoning, we've still done whatever we can to be helpful to them. We had originally planned to sell for a residential development. Mr. Glenn Patterson, who's advising us on this sale, will explain later why that's likely not possible. If the council members could please refer to the zoning map that's on page 93 of the packet, you'll see why I-1 zoning is the most natural fit, given how close we are to the Walmart and Lidl distribution centers, the planned UPS mega site, and hundreds of acres of existing I-1 land. And I-1 rezoning would also limit the negatives for our neighbors compared to an I-2 rezoning, which we refuse to recommend from the get-go. One board member, so we were confused by the planning board recommending against I-1 rezoning. One board member said he felt it didn't fit the city's 2035 plan, but he didn't explain why he disagreed with city staff's recommendation for approval of I-1, which was based on that same 2035 plan. Also, there's another property on Cherry Lane very similar to ours that requested I-1 rezoning just 4 months before ours, and approval for that flew through both the planning board and the city council unanimously. If you could please take a look at the table on page 92 of the agenda packet, you'll see how similar the properties are. And if anything, how our land is actually better suited for I-1 zoning. During the March Planning Board meeting, Only one neighbor raised issues against rezoning our land, the main one being about traffic. Yes, traffic will certainly increase if an I-1 use is built on our land. However, if tractor trailer traffic to and from our land is routed through the Commerce Park with signage, that will help significantly. Also, Cherry Lane has plenty of capacity to handle more traffic, and the NCDOT Assistant District Engineer for our area says the road's construction parameters mean all traffic types can use it, including 18-wheelers. We do understand that some Cherry Lane residents would like things to stay the same forever. That's only natural. But with huge warehouses now clearly in sight of our neighborhood, significant changes have already been happening for the 8 years since the Commerce Park's Economic Development Zone was created. The 2035 plan shows that the city intends for our area of Cherry Lane to become non-residential. So what we're asking to do with our land is the kind of change that the city of Graham has already envisioned for almost a decade. So I'd like to thank you for your attention and consideration. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Melody, have you got any questions?
I do not, and thank you for all of your packet. It was very informational, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ricky, questions?
No, sir.
Jennifer, questions?
So did you speak directly to the person that Mary's letter referred to?
Yes, we did.
Tanya
Okay.
Whitfield.
And she seemed like she was concerned with the trees. You said that part of this is with a farmland preservation trust, is that right?
That's a different neighbor that raised the issue of the farmland preservation trust, and nothing that we would allow to be built here would affect that. He's a rancher. He's got Angus cattle right next to us, but nothing that we would allow to be built would affect his land. So the preservation trust doesn't apply.
Okay, so Aaron, if it is listed, if it is rezoned I-1, what, if any, vegetation or trees or whatever, could they completely clear cut the property would be required?
Well, that's a complicated question to answer just because, excuse me, if you have streams, you have stream buffers that you have to keep in mind. It's not like you can just go and cut every single thing down. And without seeing any plans for what's going there, we would really need to see that to really know exactly what they would need, to have cleared out for stormwater or stuff like that. So it's hard to answer that question without really knowing what's going there.
Well, based on the topography right now, I don't see on this thing that they had whether there was, I don't see any like streams or anything. I mean, it looks like there's a stream, but that's not on their property.
There are streams on the property.
Okay.
Yeah, I recall there being one.
I'm just looking at the map. I haven't been out, obviously, to the property, but Nathan, is there anything that we can do to ensure that it's just not like completely clear cut?
Councilmember Talley, the right for somebody to clear cut their property, whether it's zoned residential or industrial or whatever, is always present. Mr. Holland was correct in that the riparian buffers are the greatest protection, and it does appear that there's a riparian buffer between 99% of the Eckinger land and the Whitfield property that's in question. The larger threat to that Whitfield land is the product land, given that it borders it on 3 sides. The other piece that addresses another portion of your former question, the way our landscape buffer ordinance is currently written, it's based upon the land use code of the end user rather than the zone. So if it's zoned light industrial and has a warehouse distribution site on it, like the Lidl or the Walmart distribution site, it's required to have one class of landscaping. It can have a different class of landscaping if it's one of the other light industrial users. But that would only become about and be required to be in place as a condition of the certificate of occupancy.
So on the borders that, so you said on the border where it borders the Preservation Trust, I guess, where there's gonna naturally be the trees because of the repair and buffer. So that takes care of that. And then the landscaping plan, would there be a landscaping plan that would satisfy any residential neighbors that would abut this property?
The landscaping plan would be that which was required by the city council. So it would depend on what the end user was. The more intensive the end user, the more extreme the buffer has to be.
Yeah, a lot goes into what goes there, because then once you match that up to the residential adjoining properties, then you will know what the intensity is. Now, just one thing of note, this is a straight rezoning and not a conditional zoning. So we just have to keep in mind that we couldn't actually put any conditions on this request here.
Right, that's why I'm asking, what would be the conditions if we do approve the straight rezoning?
It would basically be whatever has been approved in our ordinance for the landscaping.
So I guess when I'm looking at this map that they drew here on the left, that's where the stream is, right? To the left of the property from Cherry, if you're standing in Cherry Lane?
If it helps, I could pull it up and you can see the stream. Would that be helpful?
Yes.
You can see the blue line stream here.
Right. And I do believe that the board would, or the council would also have to approve any site plan once it's submitted.
Is that true, Aaron?
No. If this was to go through and be approved, basically it would just, based on what comes through as the end user, would go through TRC, and that would be where the approvals would come. Technical Review Committee, I'm sorry.
So on the left, you're gonna have to have that buffer with the trees anyways because of that stream, but on the right, I don't know, is it just one house there on the right that would be affected? That's residential, is that right?
There's actually no livable house there. There's an old trailer there that is not livable, and some sheds.
Okay.
And then in the Whitfield property is the one that you see that juts out into the purple area. And then the Isley tract is roughly a T-shaped piece that the creek that runs through our land also runs through his land, and it flows downhill from his property into our property.
So both of those parcels are vacant. No one lives on either one.
Okay. Buffers make happy neighbors.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
So, okay, well I was just wanting to make sure that since it's abutting residential, that we would have some sort of, require some sort of landscaping if the end use is gonna be heavy industrial.
It's not heavy industrial.
No.
This is light industrial.
Light industrial, okay.
That all, Jennifer?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. No question. All right. Thank you, Jeff and Jeannie. We appreciate your answering the questions. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Did I miss something? Okay. All right. What we will do now is, unless Jeff, you got someone else that wants to
Got one
speak?
more, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Glenn Patterson, you've been unmuted. Go ahead, sir. State your name and address.
He'll need to unmute.
There we go. You figure I would know how to do this by now.
Hey,
So,
Glenn.
Glenn Patterson, 885 Cheeks Lane in Graham. I am consulting with the Eikingers on this property with their listing agent, and just wanted to bring up a couple of items with this. A little history of where we're at with it is that we first looked at this for a residential use for this property, and immediately had interested parties. One of the prospects did some checking and checked with the staff and discovered a residential development would need a lot more water sewer capacity than most industrial non-manufacturing uses. The closest pump station has sufficient capacity to serve the industrial uses, but not a residential development. This would necessitate installing sufficient secure sewer capacity, which would be way too costly for most residential developers. Looked into, could it be served with houses on septic tanks, and on the 39 acres, there was really only 4 places where it would work. Another item is that on the 2035 comprehensive plan, this area is set out as for an industrial area, which thus follows the comprehensive plan. The traffic issue came up at the planning department or planning meeting. I talked with a broker who handles a lot of industrial properties, as well as a local businessman who I know y'all know the Burtons, and rent tractor trailers. And when I discussed the traffic pattern over there was an issue brought up in the planning meeting about truck traffic going down Cherry Lane to 54 or to Jimmy Kerr Road, and both of these professionals sort of laughed and balked at this, because why would you do that if you got to go to Governor Scott Farm Road and Senator Ralph Scott Farm and be at the interstate? The broker indicated that he had interested parties that they were looking for 2 to 3 turns to get to the interstate, and the most direct route, the easiest route, straightest routes were where they like to go. And then my final comment, unless there's questions, was just looking on page 3 of the Eikingers package that they sent in, that the interest we've had in this property is that it's not been on the market very long. And we had 1 mixed-use developer, 3 housing developers, and 11 distribution-type industrial users.
Who's that?
So there's a lot of demand for it, and it follows the plan. So I'll be happy to entertain any questions that anyone has.
Jennifer, you got any question for Glenn?
No.
Chipper?
No questions.
Melly?
No, sir.
Ricky?
No, sir.
Glenn, it's good to hear from you, sir.
You too. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Jeff, have you got anyone else?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone on the floor want to speak on this? With that being said, then we'll close the public hearing and we'll talk about ourselves, among ourselves. I understand Tanya Whitfield's concerns. If you go in there and clear cut it, but would you do the same thing if it was residential? You would. You plant some back. And unfortunately for her, I think we're going to hear from her one more time when her next door neighbor on the other side comes back at us. Because this is already industrial. It's industrial zone now, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I see this as a win for them, or something we probably need to do. What does everybody else think?
I agree with you, Mayor. I think it's something we need to do.
Goes to R18, there would not be but 4 sites, which means you got quite a big acreage right there. That would never come inside the city, and they would have to sell that at such an enormous price that they would never come out with it. Ricky, what do you think?
I'm good.
Jennifer?
No comment.
Melody?
I think it's a good project. I think it's the only thing they can do. They can't do any residential out there. It's inevitable. It's right across from the industrial park. I think it's inevitable that we were going to see this. So.
Okay. All right. Anybody else got any other comments? If not, let me move you to page 89 on your agenda, and I need a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the application be approved. The application is consistent with the Graham 2035 Comprehensive Plan. Based on the 2035 Comprehensive Plan and the City of Graham Development Ordinance, we recommend approval because the rezoning of the property would be inconsistent with the mixed-use commercial district type, policy 241, and will allow land uses which are likely to attract employment opportunities within the City of Graham, strategy 2.2.1.
Thank you, ma'am. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you, sir. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Mr. and Ms. Eichinger, good luck with this. We're pulling for you. You know that. Might have left us. Okay, next we have 4B, tabled by the Planning Board public hearing. And if they tabled it, I would just soon, if y'all are all right with that, is to us vote to wait for them or have a consensus that we wait for them to hear this before we discuss. Would that be all right with everyone?
Mr. Mayor, make that motion.
Okay, you make a motion. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you, sir. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. So next we go to,
Mayor Peterman?
yes,
My apologies, but the 160D update is fairly extensive. It's in council's Dropbox, so if you guys want to have some light reading later in the week before you get bogged down with next month's packet, it might be something good to start perusing.
okay, thank you, sir.
I have been looking at this for a while. There's some really good summaries and some kind of in-depth study of this ordinance, and some videos at the School of Government if you guys are interested in looking at it.
Be good late night reading, like he says, or early morning reading in my case. I get up so early in the morning. Okay, next we have number 5, law enforcement risk review presentation. Aaron, are you handling this for us, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and actually I will be introducing Matthew Selves. He's the Public Safety Risk Management Consultant with the North Carolina League of Municipalities. And he's here tonight to provide a recognition for our police department. So Jeff, if you don't mind, if we could bring him on, he actually has the presentation to provide for council for our police department.
Who was that again, Aaron? I'm sorry.
His name is Matthew Selves.
Got it. You want him as a panelist, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks, Jeff.
Welcome, Mr. Sales.
Okay, just want to get my video on there. Thank you very much. Thank you, Aaron, for the introduction. I greatly appreciate that. Great talking with you today as well. Again, my name is Matthew Selves, and I'm the Public Safety Risk Management Consultant with the North Carolina League of Municipalities. And again, thank you, Mayor and City Council members, for this time in recognizing the Graham Police Department for completing the North Carolina League's Law Enforcement Risk Review. Now, the risk review involves a very comprehensive agency review of high-risk policies, operations, practices, and includes an on-site administrative and operations review, including equipment, facility inspections, officer interviews, and observations of operations, all to validate best practices aligned with the procedures and industries today. We specifically look at high liability areas within a police department that consist of response and pursuit, response to resistance, officer training, including supervisor training, proactive risk reduction strategies within the department, property and evidence management. In addition, there's many other categories. There's 39 categories in all that we look at. Now, this review is supported by the North Carolina Police Chiefs Association. And again, Mayor and City Council, I'm proud to announce this evening that the Graham Police Department successfully completed the risk review process. Chief Cole and the department's staff prioritized the initiative. The department was very proactive and involved during this whole process. I would like to thank the chief and staff for their willingness to participate, and the department was very open again and helpful during the whole process. Now, I myself have spent 24 years in law enforcement, 12 years as a police chief in Iredell County area, and have additionally worked with a number of agencies across the state, being a member of the North Carolina Police Executive Association. And the officers that I've worked with across the state have observed and demonstrated very high level commitment to the communities and best practices and enhanced professional policing to positively impact the communities and the relationships with the communities. Again, I'd like to congratulate the police department on this recognition. Job well done, Mayor and Council. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would you mind answering any questions the council would have?
Sure, yeah. If they got some questions, I would be more than glad to answer them. Yes, go ahead.
Kelly, do you have any questions?
No, sir, not right now.
Ricky?
No, sir.
Jennifer?
If you could just briefly talk about, obviously police have had a large number of challenges this past year. And we obviously get a lot of concerns about hiring practices in the police station, and we get concerns about us making sure that we are doing everything that we can to ensure that we are serving the public in a professional and helpful manner. And if you could just speak a little bit about what we already know to be true. A lot of times it's just that when we get those questions, the public doesn't know. And they say, well, I think they need to do this, this, this. And then you say, well, we are already doing that. This is what we do. Well, I think they need to have, if there's a question about a police officer, that there's an internal affairs, kind of review. We do that. That we have, that our officers go through a lot of credentialing, they go through a lot of continuing education, they go through a lot of training in order to be on our particular police department. That we don't just give somebody a badge and because we hire them and put them out there on the street with the public. So if you could speak a little bit to that, more of coming from in the perspective of if you were talking to a resident, because that's what we get a lot of questions with.
Okay, so are we referring to the hiring practices? Is that you kind of mentioned that and then talked about training? So I'm just trying to figure out which
Both
one.
hiring practices and training, and
Okay.
what the kind of level that a new officer has to go through in order to be able to be accredited.
Okay, so number one, the league makes recommendations on hiring practices, and that whether they're lateral transfers where they come from other agencies or they're probation officers coming out of basic law enforcement training with no experience at all, that each officer has the same type of hiring practice. In other words, they all go through the background checks, they all go through psychological, medical, all that. Everybody's treated the same. And that's the best practice that should be followed within the department, which your department does follow that psychological training and all that. And again, of course, you get that paperwork together, doing the background checks, and it's sent to the state. And then the state looks at it, talks about it, and then they'll send back whether they certify the officer for that department in general. And that's in generally in a nutshell what they need to do. Full backgrounds, you can find a lot of these documents at the North Carolina Criminal Justice and Training Standards of it's all public knowledge there on their website, and looking at forms and stuff that agencies have to do to get officers certified, or we can talk about, if they're going to be school resource officers, you have to let the state know that they've been to school resource officer training. Again, law enforcement officers, after hired, are required to go through 24 hours minimum in-service training. Of course, the league expands on that. We look at some other training that we want them to do. And that's like training for proactive risk reduction, like driver training, or response to resistant training, use of force training, using de-escalation and decision-making practices. We make sure that we recommend those challenges. Bias-based police training, which I'm going to let you know that'll probably be coming down as a state mandated here soon. So they do it already, but it's going to be state mandated across the state. Sexual harassment training, which all city employees should take. We look at we have 39 categories, and the department, of course, sent me like 56 policies that I reviewed to match in with the categories and all that. So it was very extensive. And then coming there and working with them. They have to do training if they're canine officers. They have to do training if they're SWATs or special operations officers, firearms training every year, first aid training every year. There's a lot of training that goes into these agencies, which is a lot of money that you put into each officer that you hire. And the ultimate goal is to train that probation officer to come in, or that lateral officer to stay with your agency and eventually move up the ranks and be promoted up to the chief. And that's the goal. That's what I always looked at when I was a police chief, was cultivating those officers that came in and working towards that goal as well.
Well, thank you very much for putting a stamp on something we already know to be true, is that we have a great group of officers here in Graham that are professional and have a really tough job. And I appreciate, all that you do to help us let the public know, what a great group of people we have working in law enforcement here in Graham.
Thank you, ma'am. And if anybody has any questions, Aaron has my information. You're more than welcome to reach out to me. That's no problem. Again, being a member, you're being a member of the league, and I being an employee of the league, I'm kind of like an extension of your employees. And whether it's myself or it's TJ DeLuca in the risk control section, or it's Heather James in our HR, we're there to help the town with anything that comes up to, because we're just like we're a team, we're a family, and that's the way we look at it.
Thank you, sir. Chip, have you got any more questions?
No questions.
Jennifer, were you done? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, Chip. What promotes this review, sir?
What do you mean promotes? I'm sorry.
What starts this review?
Basically, so the review comes down that we meet with the chief, command staff, and managers. Of course, I believe we met back in May, early May, when 2020. And of course, a lot of things have changed, but that review started. It's kind of like an added stamp, just like your CALEA practices, just to be prepared. I believe the state eventually will bring down accreditation for agencies as well. So there'll be some more accreditation coming to the agencies but again, this review really looks at those high-risk policies and making sure that they have policies in place to cover those 39 categories. So they made some changes, updated some policies, and really came forth and took an extra added step to reduce the risk to officers and to the public in general and stuff.
Chief, does this act like the CALEA, where it's a scheduled review?
Yes, sir. I would provide the report and save it myself and give it to the department. And in 3 years, me being here, I'll come back and we'll go through it again and re-review it and make sure everything's been updated over the last 3 years. Because as we know, time changes year by year, day by day. So, and of course, I send out things saying, hey, update this and be prepared for the next one.
Chief, thank you for your time, and thank you for the good words of our police department. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, council. Thank you, Aaron, and I appreciate all the things you do. Thank you, sir.
All right, good deal. Wrong page, this one. All right, next we have number 6, a closed session pursuant to the terms of North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11A5 to establish or to instruct the public staff and negotiating agents concerning the position taken on behalf of the public body, negotiating the price and material terms of a contract and proposed contract for the acquisition of real property by purchase, option, exchange, and lease. And let's see, this is tax ID numbers 144001, 143995, 143994, 143984, and this is an empty lot or empty group of lots on Moore Street that does not actually have an address. It's owned by DDJS Properties, And the fire department is looking at expanding their facilities, so that's why they want to go into closed session and talk about this. Let's see here. I think that's everything I need to cover. We are going to go into closed session with Chief Cole. He is going to bring with him Captain Jason Moore, Aaron Highland, Brian Coleman, Nathan Page, and the council. So,
Mr. Mayor?
Read out are the same owner.
yes. Yes, Brian.
Are you going to vote on going into closed session or?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yes, sir. Anyway, all these guys are going to go. Jason's going as a learning tool. Jason is Captain Moore. Yes, sir, Chief.
My senior captain, Jason, Cook, is on duty and back available now.
Jason Cook. Okay, good deal. So there's Jason right there. Oh, hey, Jason. So we've got Jason Cook, Chief Cole, Aaron Holland, Brian Coleman, Jason Moore, Captain Jason Moore, Nathan Page, and the council. Where are we going to put all these people now? That's the next question. Aaron, where are we going to all go?
Well, it's intended for us to all be here in the conference room right outside my office. I think we have enough room to spread everyone out.
Okay, good deal. Then I need a vote to do this. I'll make a motion. We go into closed session to discuss these properties. I need a second.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, sir. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Good deal. We will start our closed session at 7:45 till 8. So we got 10 minutes if you need to make a pit stop or anything like that.
Any guesstimate of how long?
Shouldn't be too long. The sheath is a little bit long-winded.
You got 3 firemen there. And you have something with those numbers.
Yes, sir.
Good, how are you, Richard? Yeah. What happened?
Meredith.
I don't ever see Chuck. When I do, it's,
Stuff that we can deal with.
yeah, this guy's gonna make it.
Jennifer, do me a favor and mute your mic right there in front of you.
You know, Richard Shepard. How are you, sir? You all right? I got the public. Time y'all gonna be? Oh, mercy, I'd have gone to the wrong place. 12:30. Put it in the door, you can use it. I'm gonna look at Graham first, and we'll move out. We'll do whatever's right for you.
Yeah.
If we keep it in the county, it helps us.
Absolutely.
Okay. I got 4 minutes.
Go down here and order a boat. It's 2 years. Go west, come on.
Truthful, and it's not them that's not being truthful.
That's
it's
what they're
just-
being told.
Yeah.
I know. Did y'all admire the entrepreneur? Put stuff in the warehouse.
We do just to safety. Take a break.
Turn back on.
Oh.
There we go. Is Aaron back in his office? Aaron back in his office? Okay. All right, we need a motion to come out of closed session. I believe Chip made that.
Second motion.
And Ricky, you seconded it?
Yes,
Is that
sir.
right? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. What we did in closed session, we discussed the site and cost of properties for a substation and gave the staff permission to negotiate on the listed sites, which I gave you the listed sites, plus evaluate the area in general. So they're going to evaluate other sites also, not just these. So next we have got too many papers here, don't I? Yes, sir.
Did I understand you to say evaluate other sites?
Yes.
And what are those sites?
I won't have them until we do the evaluation. We're going to do an overall general evaluation, and we will bring them back to you.
Mr. Mayor, I would just raise a concern, to be quite honest, that being in closed session for that long, it's hard to imagine that the conversation was restricted to giving your negotiating agents instructions. And I fear that you would bound to have been going into other parts of the discussion that should have been conducted in the open.
And you fear wrong.
But
I
the,
appreciate it, but
the,
you're
i-
wrong.
the idea that discussing whether there should be a station, where it should be, all that should be done in the open. The specifics of the motion were to instruct the staff in how to proceed in negotiating.
And that's what we did. But we also included generally overall to look at the neighborhood, see if we can come up with a better station site. Okay, now, what we've got now is my last piece of paper here.
Number 7. Not on tonight's issue.
Okay, number 7, issues not on tonight's agenda. Jeff, have you got anybody?
Not at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Deal. Poll council, Ricky, have you got anything?
No, sir.
Jennifer, have you got anything to add?
We have a customer appreciation for phone services and Colonial Hardware this upcoming Friday at 12 o'clock. If you'd like some good barbecue, I hope you guys will come out and join us for that event. It will be at 12 o'clock on Friday, and then Saturday, the Maverick is sponsoring the Kinfolk Series, and we have Bucky Covington coming, and we also have a cruise-in car show that will start from 4 to 6, and then Bucky Covington, from 4 to 9, and then the Bucky Covington will start singing at 7 o'clock.
Thank you, ma'am. Chipper, you got anything?
No, sir.
Melody?
I do, sir. I have 2 items. One, the public hearing has opened for NCDOT for intersection improvements on the NC 54 and 49. They actually opened up April 12th and will close on May 10th. You may go to NC54-NC49-Graham-publicinput.com to weigh in on that. There are questions. There are 2 alternatives being offered. One is a more traditional, the second would be a roundabout. The funding on that of the 2, the number 2 is actually cheaper, has less impact on landowners, and as a matter of fact, does not include any housing and landowner in that section. Number 3, the construction time period for that as we move forward will be February of 2023.
Okay.
The second item is I received a call from several, actually I didn't receive a call, I received several calls and I keep forgetting. There is a green truck that keeps parking on Pine Street in the bike lane. And if we could instruct staff to take a look at that, please.
That next to the cemetery?
Yes, sir. That's down 454 in, right there
Yeah.
at the cemetery.
I
Right,
know, Richard, I'll take care of it.
okay. That's all I have, sir.
Okay, thank you. Chipper?
Jerry, I wasn't finished but
Wait a minute, I'll come back to you. Okay. Chipper, you got anything?
Nothing.
Go back to Jennifer, please.
So I just wanted to bring up the issue of opening City Hall. And, I really feel like we continue to get complaints from citizens saying that it can't reach people. And I know that there was a situation where I think maybe 2 meetings ago or something, and Nathan said somebody had tried to reach Nathan, and then apparently there was some voicemail box that hadn't been heard from in months and months and months and had all these voicemails in it. And I just feel like, our customer service here needs to be here. There hasn't been, I'm for the blue collar people, so there hasn't been a fireman that hasn't reported to work. There hasn't been a police officer that hasn't reported to work. There hasn't been somebody on the street department, somebody in cemeteries, and somebody that is doing all the blue collar work of picking up the trash. And they've been here every day since COVID. And our administrative office is shut down and nobody's up here. When you all have individual offices to work from, you can socially distance, you can wear masks, you should all be vaccinated by now. Open City Hall and improve our service to our customers. That is my argument to this council, and I hope that we can, as a consensus, agree to be able to do that by this time next meeting. The other thing is the open meetings, which I would like for the council and the administration to maybe come back with some options that's maybe at least a hybrid that would be allowing people to come in. Obviously, we have limited seating here, and how the county handles it is that they have a place where you can video watch in a much larger area or watch online once the seats are filled in here, but have a limited number of seats in the auditorium that obviously are socially distanced, and allow the meetings to be open to the public again, so that people will have an opportunity, especially our senior citizens that do not know how to do a Zoom call and do not understand, all of the technical issues of trying to do virtual calls. I mean, we serve them, and I feel like they have been at a real disadvantage this entire time from being able to participate in our meetings.
We have been working on that, and we had planned on easing into it. This is our first step right here, opening this up tonight. Not many people knew that we were opening, but we did. We opened for 14 to 16 people in here tonight, and we will work on it as we come. And the staff has been working, even the blue collar workers, as you said. We've been working in different shifts. Half the crew work one week, half crew works the next. That way we don't infect the entire crew doing this. We are slowly coming back to full strength, and we will be with you shortly. All right, now I asked you, Chip, is that everybody?
So are you saying City Hall is open?
I did not say that. I said
Well,
we're
that's what
working.
I'm asking you.
We're working on
So
opening.
when can we expect for City Hall to reopen?
It's not gonna be long. I would say is if the numbers hold this month, it'll probably be this month.
Mayor, I can answer that if you want.
Please do.
As far as staff, we've made sure we've maintained coverage throughout the whole pandemic. For myself personally, I probably only work from home twice in a year, and I can tell you I'm probably one of many that were in that predicament. We haven't had the doors open because we are also trying to protect the citizens as well. Our setup isn't like some of the other municipalities, so it's not as easy to set things up because our lobby area is pretty small. It's not a deep lobby area like what Mebane has, for example. As far as the vaccinations, obviously I can't go into depth on who's getting it or not getting it, but our group, when it became available, those that went ahead and got it, we're working on the second shots coming through. I can tell you personally, mine was done on Friday. So you still have your 10 days, I believe, after your second shot. So if you can imagine anyone that went at the same time as we're just now coming into getting our second shot, and we still have our 10 days. We are looking at bringing back staff. I want to say it was the May 10th, if I'm not mistaken. And the reason why we were doing that, because we still have things we're ordering so that we can put in place so that when we do open the doors for the public, we have them where they're not going to be in each other's way. As far as opening up City Hall, that will be done, I believe it's the 1st of June. So we're definitely working on getting everyone, those who want to get vaccinated, the opportunity to get vaccinated, get those folks back in, and then open the doors so we can protect our staff as well as the citizens.
Can we, Aaron, I appreciate and I absolutely believe that you have worked from home probably 2 days. I think that's probably absolutely, just goes to show your nature. But there are a lot of people that have adjusted their schedules and are not in the office, and people have complained repeatedly. And there's no one, if you work on a trash truck, you don't get to work from home. If you are a fireman, you don't get to work from home. You have to report like everybody else. And we literally have a plastic thing there to be able to prevent people from contracting anything with the public. I just don't see, I feel like we're not moving. June is like, I don't even know why we're waiting until June. That, other cities are open, other cities are serving their citizens, and I would just like to see us improve our customer service and I know you found to have gotten complaints about what I'm talking about because I'm sure people call up here and complain and say, I can't get someone, or I've left messages and they won't call me back, or they're only in the office 2 days a week. You know, people like that when they're paying taxes. And so I just wanted to voice that concern. And I think that, you know, you can't ask a fireman or a police officer or any of these other people to report every single day since COVID happened, and then other people get privileges that they don't get. I mean, I'm sure they would love to be able to work from home, but that's not, that they're not given that opportunity.
All right, thank you, ma'am. I think that
What was the distinction between May 10th and June 1? I didn't understand.
there was not a distinction. He said May 10th and she said June 1. It was May 10th, what Aaron quoted.
Didn't you say that you were gonna, June 1?
I thought he said May 10th.
May 10th is when City Hall employees are reporting back on normal schedules.
Okay.
Does that mean open?
Yes. All right. I do have the tree board events. It's a month-long event, so look at the city's website and see the tree board, what all they're doing. We'll have Arbor Day on the 30th, and that will be in the bottom of Johnson Avenue down there in the little boulevard. We'll be planting a tree down there in honor of Mrs. Thompson. Carrie Thompson was a city council person, the first woman to be elected to this board, and they'll plant a tree there in her honor. They'll also plant a tree down at the park beside Mickey Cheek's daughter's tree in honor of Mickey Cheek, who is one of our councilmen that passed away this month and a half ago. We'll have one more tree planted, but I don't know who that's for.
Do you have a time on that yet? Do we have a time on the Arbor Day?
The Arbor Day will be at, I think it's 9:30. It's pretty early in the morning. We're gonna plant and get on out of there. So again, it'll be in the bottom down there where the boulevard is. That's where we're gonna plant Mrs. Thompson's tree.
And I'm planting 3 other trees too.
Are you?
Yeah.
You want to name who they're for, or are they just?
Kimberly Williams, Stephen Hall, and Chuck has somebody. There's a third person. I'm sorry, I don't remember who he told me.
Well, they'll be announced at.
Yeah.
Okay, Aaron, have you got anything to add?
No, sir. I think y'all covered what I had on my list.
Good. Brian?
No, sir, I'm good. Thank you.
Nathan?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. I have a brief item. There's 2 pieces that the North Carolina General Assembly are acting on that I think the council might want to be aware of. There's a House Bill 401, removes the authority from all cities to have single-family zoning. It makes use by right duplexes, triplexes, and quadplexes in all residential areas. The only exception is historic districts. I am not certain, but I anticipate that the council might want to adopt a resolution for that one. The other bill that's worth noting is House Bill 511. There's a lot of bills and many of them are important. The ones that are focused on the area of development that we talk about often. The second one is House Bill 511, and House Bill 511 returns to NCDOT the ability to spend state matching money to match federal funds and administer federal funds for all transportation projects, not just road projects. So that would include specifically some of the sidewalk projects that the city's been working on for decades now.
Thank you. The House Bill 401 sounds like a real doozy. That would kill a lot of us.
Would you like me to draft a resolution in support of 511 and against 401?
Do I have a consensus for the council on that?
Yeah.
It would be adopted at the next meeting.
Have we got time to do that?
Most governments don't move particularly quickly.
Yeah, well.
Spoken like an expert.
Yeah. All right. We have a consensus to do that, to draft a document for House Bill 401 against House Bill 511 for. Okay. Thank you, Nathan. Jeff, have you got anything to add?
No, sir.
Brian, are you still with us?
Yes, sir. I don't have anything to add.
Mary, are you here?
Yes, sir. I have no additional comments.
Thank you. With that, I need a motion to adjourn. Yes. Come up and talk. Yes, sir. Sorry, I should have asked. I should have asked. Can you borrow one of the microphones and give Ricky room?
Richard Shevlin, 510 Wildwood Lane, Graham. I'm here tonight for Elko Vets. We are asking for a 3-day road closure of the 100 block of East Elm Street in September 17th, 18th, and 19th for Dock Dogs, which they have turned now into a national event. We will have dogs from all over the country be at this 3-day event. Plus, we're going to be raising money, of course, for the veterans of Alamance County as well. So we ask for consideration to be put on the docket for next month.
Richard, what is the reason for 3 days? Have they expanded there?
They've expanded it, so there'll be many, many more dogs, more people coming in. It'll give them a chance to come in. They'll come in at different days. Plus, they're adding events. They're going to have a racetrack, so they're going to have a new type of, they're going to have, other than just the dogs running and jumping in the water, they're going to be racing. So there'll be a lot more events added to the schedule.
And this is, Alco Vets are going to use this as a fundraiser and
Yes,
they're the
sir.
sponsor?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Is this going to put the pool in the same general area as it has in the past?
Yes, sir. That's the plan.
Have you reached out to the business owners of that area and they're all right with this?
As far as I know, I'm going to say yes.
Okay. Any of them you haven't reached out to?
So I'm going to say no. I'll have to check with, let me check with our president and make sure that the ones in the area will know about it. And I'll have that for the next meeting.
We'll ask for this to be put on the agenda for next month.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
this is Mary Fawcett. If I could interject that the council has approved for event requests to funnel through me, that I can send Mr. Shevlin our event application. And as long as the committee doesn't have any objections, it shouldn't have to come back before council.
Let's try that route first and
Yes,
then
sir.
we'll, if they have a concern, if you have a concern, you all welcome right here. You know that, Richard.
Yes, sir.
And we appreciate the work you're doing with Alco Vets.
Thank you very much.
Y'all
I
doing a lot.
I need to give Mary my new email address. How do I get in touch with her?
She's listening right now. If
Uh,
if you want to put that out there, or you can,
It's fine. I don't mind at all.
you can leave it here and I can get it to her.
Okay, I'll leave it with you.
Okay.
All
All right.
All right, thank you for your time.
Sir, thank you. So we'll do that as a pending thing, putting that on the agenda for next month. Okay. With that, we have a motion and a second to adjourn.
So
All in
moved.
favor, say aye.
Second.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Aye. Thank y'all for being here, Chief.